We're looking at a tiny $4 stock trying to fix one of the ugliest problems in modern medicine, the deadly leftovers from fentanyl pain patches. Every day we talk about the opioid crisis as addiction, crime, tragedy. We almost never talk about it as a technology failure. Because at the center of this crisis is a medical device that's brilliant for pain relief and absolutely terrible for safety. I'm talking about transdermal fentanyl patches. These are used by cancer patients, by people with extreme chronic pain. You stick one on, it slowly releases medication over 3 days, and then you peel it off and throw it away. Here's the horror story. When that 3-day patch comes off, roughly half of the fentanyl is still locked inside it. That used patch sitting in a trash can still has enough drug in it to kill a child. If a toddler finds it, or an addict steals it to chew or extract the drug, the results are often fatal. This isn't theory. There are real cases of kids dying from discarded patches. Regulators know this. Big Pharma knows this. For years they've been searching for a way to make the patch safe after it leaves the patient's skin, a lock for a very powerful weapon. Quick reminder before we go any further. I'm not your financial advisor. This video is for educational and informational purposes only and is not financial advice. Microcap and penny stocks are extremely risky, so always do your own research or talk to a licensed professional before making any decisions. With that said, today we're looking at a company that claims to have built that lock. It's called Nutriband, ticker NTRB, trading around $4.40 as I'm recording this. It's a tiny NASDAQ microcap, roughly $60 million in market value. But it holds patents on an abused deterrent technology that could completely change how fentanyl patches work. The core idea is surprisingly simple. Traditional patches are passive, they release drug. That's it. Nutriband's AVERSA technology adds an active defense layer, but instead of electronics or expensive hardware, it uses chemistry. They embed what are called aversive agents inside the patch, chemicals that are harmless in normal use, but absolutely miserable if someone tries to abuse the patch. The two big ones are denatonium benzoate, better known as Bitrex, and capsaicin, the compound that makes chili peppers burn. Bitrex literally holds the Guinness World Record as the most bitter substance known to humans. We're talking instant gag reflex levels of bitter. Capsaicin is the same stuff used in pepper spray. Here's the clever part. These agents sit in a layer of the patch that never touches the patient's skin. If you wear the patch the way you're supposed to, you never notice them. The fentanyl releases normally over 3 days and helps manage severe pain, exactly as prescribed. But if someone tries to chew the patch to get a massive dose all at once, the protective layer breaks, Bitrex and capsaicin flood out, and the experience becomes a nightmare. The taste is violently bitter, the burn is intense, and the person physically can't keep the patch in their mouth long enough to get the drug. If they try the junky chemistry route, soaking the patch in vodka or water to pull the fentanyl into a liquid IV injection, the same thing happens. The aversive chemicals dissolve right along with the drug. Now you're looking at a syringe full of liquid that's too bitter to swallow and too painful to inject. The stolen drug becomes almost unusable. That's the moat, same pain relief for the legitimate patient, but a built-in self-defense system once somebody tries to misuse the patch. This isn't just a clever idea on a whiteboard. Nutriband has been building a serious intellectual property wall around it. The AVERSA technology is covered by patents not only in the US, but across more than 40 countries, Europe, Japan, China, Australia, and others. That means if a major drug company wants to launch an abused deterrent fentanyl patch that works this way, they probably need to talk to Nutriband. They also have an important regulatory advantage. Instead of doing the full billion-dollar, decade-long process to prove fentanyl itself is safe and effective, that's already established, they're using what's called the 505(b)(2) pathway with the FDA. In plain English, they can piggyback on existing fentanyl data and focus their studies on showing that the AVERSA safety mechanism actually deters abuse and accidental exposure. That cuts years and hundreds of millions of dollars off the development timeline if everything goes well. Of course, even great technology dies if the company runs out of cash. That's where the news from just a few days ago becomes so important. Nutriband owned a subsidiary called Pocono Pharmaceutical that did contract manufacturing work. It was a decent side business, but it wasn't the main mission. The home run is the abused deterrent fentanyl patch. So Nutriband agreed to sell 90% of Pocono to a company called Earth Vision Bio for $5 million in cash, while Nutriband shareholders keep a 10% stake in Earth Vision itself. Earth Vision is working on sustainable materials and alternatives to plastics, using technology originally developed by Intel co-founder Gordon Moore and Dr. Hans Frank. the former chair of Chevron Europe. So Nutriband gets two things at once: a cash war chest to fund AVERSA, and a small, hidden claim on a completely different green tech story that could have upside of its own. For a company this small, $5 million is a big deal. Management has already said they plan to use the proceeds to push AVERSA fentanyl through its next phases of development, including a human abuse potential study, which is a critical box they have to tick before filing for full FDA approval. That extra runway reduces the need for immediate dilution, which is almost always the biggest fear with microcaps. Now, let's talk about the potential payoff if it all works. Nutriband estimates that an AVERSA fentanyl patch could reach annual U.S. sales of $80 million to $200 million at peak. In the biotech world, it's common for successful products to be valued at 3 to 4 times peak sales, sometimes higher if the moat is strong. Run the simple math. On the low end, $80 million in peak sales at a 3 times multiple gives you a potential company value of about $240 million. On the high end, $200 million in sales at that same multiple gets you to $600 million. Today, the market cap is around $60 million. You're looking at a setup where, if everything works, the upside could be 4 times to 10 times higher than today's price just to reach what many would consider a fair valuation range. That's the bull case in a nutshell. A patented, globally protected technology solving a real safety problem, a regulatory shortcut path, fresh cash in the bank, and a valuation that still treats all of this like a maybe. But you know the drill by now. Nothing is free in the penny stock world, and the risks are real. First, this is still a development stage biotech story. AVERSA fentanyl has to clear its clinical studies. The human abuse potential trial actually has to demonstrate what Nutriband claims, that people can't practically abuse the patch in the real world. If the data are weak, the whole thesis breaks. Second, the FDA is the ultimate gatekeeper. Even with a friendly regulatory pathway, timelines can slip, requirements can change, and unexpected questions can show up late in the process. A negative FDA decision, or even a long delay, could crush a small stock like this. Third, patents are strong until somebody decides to attack them. Big pharma companies might prefer to license AVERSA, or they might look for workarounds and legal challenges. Nutriband's IP portfolio looks like a fortress on paper. But lawsuits are expensive, and a tiny firm going up against giants will always feel outgunned. Fourth, and this is important for anyone considering trading it, NTRB is thinly traded and extremely volatile. A single institution buying or selling can move the price 50 cents or $1 in a day. That cuts both ways. The spikes can be spectacular, but the drops can be just as violent. So where does that leave us? On one side, you have a company trading under $5 that's aiming a patented, chemically elegant technology directly at one of the most heartbreaking flaws in modern pain medicine: lethal leftovers in the trash. It has global IP, a clear regulatory plan, and fresh funding from the sale of a non-core business, plus a small bonus stake in a green tech venture. On the other side, you have all the classic microcap landmines: clinical risk, regulatory risk, patent risk, financing risk, and extreme volatility. Nutriband isn't a lottery ticket on a vague AI buzzword. It's a focused bet on whether the world will pay for a safer way to deliver one of the most dangerous, yet medically necessary, pain drugs we have. If you're interested in this space, NTRB is a ticker that at least deserves a spot on your research watch list. Read the SEC filings, look at the patents yourself, and think about whether you believe abuse deterrent patches will become a standard of care or remain a niche. I'll be watching the charts to see whether the stock can build support above that $5 area or if the post-news enthusiasm fades. Either way, this is one of the more interesting asymmetric setups in the microcap market right now. If you found this deep dive helpful, hit like, subscribe to Penny Stock Pulse, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next under the radar breakdown. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.